So in the last video, we talked about this idea of standardized subject lines or hashtags or something like that. The idea is that we're looking for something that has some level of consistency so we can do some rules on them. Let me give you an example of something that we might want to do a rule on. Here's a message. I'm going to actually go back to the original message. So I get a lot of stuff from the Biz Times, and some of it is just newsletters, and some of it is about opportunities. So I'm going to want to put a rule on this, but we need to think about what kind of rule do we want. The easiest place to start is to actually grab a message that's a great example of what you want to put a rule on. Then just right click on that message and go to rules. It does give you a couple defaults of always move messages from or always move messages to. Actually, let me make sure I've got the right one here. There we go. So we can go in though and just do a create rule, which gives us all the options, or it gets us closer to that. So from here, we can, again, this is looking at that one message as a default. I would like it to be more options. So I'm going to use the advanced options, but before I do you remember when I told you to turn your notifications off? Well, let's just say that these messages from Molly Lawrence are my exception to my rule of turning my notifications off. This right here is where you can actually create a particular notification just for that sender. So if I wanted to do that, I would say from Molly, display the new item in the alert window, and I could even select a sound. You could even select your own custom sound here. So those are just a couple things as a default. Again, remember what we put in there was we were turning all of our notifications off. If, for example, your boss would be the exception to that notification rule, this right here by right-clicking and going in to create your rule is where you could turn those notifications back on. But to do even more with rules, we're going to jump into the advanced options. So again, some of this stuff is going to be pre-populated based on the message that I had selected. We can actually say, what are the initial conditions for the rule? So as an example, we could actually say with specific words in the recipient's address, and we could go to that and say Biz Times and hit add. Now keep in mind, I don't have to make separate rules for every single thing. Instead, if I wanted all of those messages that come from Biz Times and maybe the Biz Journal and maybe JS Online and maybe Local First or wherever else stuff might be coming from, if I wanted that all to go into one folder, I don't have to create separate rules for each one. I could put that all in one. So this is where you have all of your abilities to select conditions, and everywhere where it's this blue highlighted or blue underlined area is where you can actually select that particular information and specify it further. I'm going to hit next. And now it says, okay, now that you've selected which messages you want, what do you want to do with them? So we could say we wanted to move to a particular folder. We could assign it to a category. Perhaps we wanted to automatically forward. Again, this is an option here to have it play a sound. You can mark it as read if that's helpful as well. And again, there's a bunch of different options that you have. What I love about this is we're not quite done yet. The next step is asking for any exceptions. So as an example, if it's from the Biz Times, but it was sent only to me, then don't do this rule. Leave it where it was. However, if we wanted that to be different, we certainly could do that as well. So just a few different options. Again, the way that this rules dialog box works is your first thing to do is select your conditions. The next thing is that you're going to say what action you want it to take. And the last part is that if there are any exceptions. When you're done, you're going to hit finish. And now keep in mind that this is only going to happen when you check your email in Outlook. This is not necessarily going to work when you're doing the web version or your application on your phone. So that can be just a little bit tricky. And sometimes the rule will run immediately and sometimes it won't. So if you need to, you can go back into your rules. We're right here on the Home tab. Go into Rules, jump into Manage Rules and Alerts. You're going to see here that there may be some rules that should be deleted. There should be, I do a lot of sample rules in here, so just some random things are popping up right now. But if you need to, you can actually go into that rule and hit Run Rules Now. Select the rule that you do want to run now and hit Run Now. And there you go. So just some different pieces that may be helpful for you. The idea here, especially going back to that idea of the standardized subject line or the hashtags, is that whatever you can find to make things consistent is what will be helpful as you're putting your rules in place.